Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Dee again, and welcome to The Interstate with Dee. Today is Saturday, March 22nd, 2025. Welcome back to our trip on the Interstate. What we do here is present news from the state level that will end up having national importance later, or news that made it into the national news cycle but was overshadowed. Then we go over some questions from y'all. On this date, March 22nd, in 1765, the British government passed the Stamp Act. This helped fuel the sentiment that led to the American Revolution. Just a quick summary of the measles situation to start off. The number of confirmed cases is now over 300, with a roughly 17% hospitalization rate. Okay, and on to the news. In Alaska, the U.S. Department of Interior is opening millions of acres of federally owned land for mining and drilling. In Arizona, AOC and Bernie held a rally that had massive attendance. It might signal to the Democratic Party what they've been doing wrong lately. Colorado teachers demonstrated at the state capitol over expected budget cuts to education. At the Kansas State House on March 28th, the Satanic Grotto will be holding a black mass. This is setting up a constitutional fight. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear vetoed legislation aimed at destroying DEI efforts in higher education in the state. In Minnesota, Republicans have introduced legislation to make Trump derangement syndrome a classified mental illness. The backlash from mental health experts was quick, who accused the legislation of trivializing mental health. In related news, one of the sponsors of the legislation resigned. State Senator Eichhorn has resigned. The resignation comes after he was brought up on charges centering on allegations of attempting to meet up with a 17-year-old girl who turned out to be an undercover cop. In Mississippi, both state houses voted to eliminate the state income tax. However, typos or bad math led to the adoption of bills that would provide a very quick phase out to the taxes instead of a slow and deliberate plan. Basically, a decimal point wound up in the wrong spot and reduced a figure that should have been 85% to 0.85%. In New Mexico, a failed Republican candidate for Congress was found guilty by a jury for his alleged role in shootings that targeted the homes of Democratic Party leaders in the state. The shootings are reported to have occurred between late 2022 and early 2023. A North Dakota jury says that Greenpeace must pay $660 million over pipeline protests. Ohio candidate for governor, Vivek Ramaswamy, seemed to suggest changing the name of Lake Erie to Lake Ohio. In Oregon, U.S. Fish and Wildlife is offering a reward for information about the death of gray wolf. Nonprofits have also chipped in, and the total potential reward is more than $30,000. If you plan on camping at federal campsites in Pennsylvania, you should probably double-check your reservations. A number of sites are closed indefinitely due to Doge cuts. The Wisconsin Supreme Court race is getting dirty as Election Day nears, with political dirty tricks and controversial tactics being deployed. In Wyoming, another GOP lawmaker disregarded advice discouraging town halls. They were met with boos and tough questions about Republican rhetoric. And here's your weird state fact for this week. In Iowa, there are more pigs than people. Okay, so moving on to the question and answer portion of the show. Question number 1. I am a long-time listener and a first-time caller. First off, thank you for the channel and everything you do. Your channel has been an excellent resource since I first stumbled across it in 2020. So I've seen this court case, State of Mississippi versus Johnson, shared by many MAGA supporters in the last few days. Looking into it makes me fearful they have a point for Trump to continue his reckless venture on democracy. Surely there is more to this, or could this really be a loophole for them? I'm not a lawyer, but as this was explained to me, they're ignoring a big part of the ruling. The Supreme Court basically said it couldn't stop the president from carrying out certain acts. But it seems to be pretty specific to actions the president undertakes because they're required by acts of Congress. In many of the current cases, Trump appears to be engaging in acts that are contrary to acts of Congress. Question number 2. Simple direct question. Can voters force recall elections? Yes or no? Our way of life will not survive until midterms, even if the right to vote still exists by November 2026. There are more than enough competitive seats across the country to swing the balance of power in D.C., especially the House. It's a direct question, but it isn't simple. Recall elections exist in some states, but this question seems to be really asking about recalls in federal elections. The simplest answer is probably not. Some states have asserted they can, but the mechanism doesn't exist in the Constitution. Since it was discussed during the drafting of the Constitution, but not included in the final text, the current Supreme Court would almost certainly say that the ability to recall does not exist. Question number 3. I have concepts of a plan, but I don't know if it's beneficial or harmful. The national parks are in trouble. Their funding and staffing has been cut, and peak travel has yet to start. Would it be helpful if we as visitors intentionally brought supplies to clean up the parks while we're there? I'm picturing us just physically picking up trash, then hauling that trash out of the park in our private vehicles to be disposed of outside the park. Yes, trash is gross, and that's not what people want to do on vacation, but these are our parks, and we should take care of them. Even if a small fraction of us do this, we can keep the parks clean. Top status for cleaning bathrooms, unclogging toilets, and stocking TP, and soap, hand sanitizer. Maybe we post our cleanup vacation photos for a digital merit badge, or something to further spread the word and impact. I mean, philosophically, it's always helpful to clean up after yourself and pay it forward, but I'm not sure what the rules would be on a national park. Honestly, it seems like an idea I'd reach out to the parks with. I'd probably start by calling Yosemite and pitching them since they already have a good relationship with the press. If they think they can run with it, they can get the word out. But also remember, like the news this week out of Pennsylvania, it may get so bad that they can't open the campsites, which means the visitors can't do it. I think it's worth the call, though. Okay, that looks like it. We'll see you next week for another trip. Y'all have a good day.